What's up, everybody? How do I get great lighting in my next home renovation? That's the question we're going to answer in this video. So I've done videos here on YouTube with spec grade lighting. I've done explainers. I've done podcasts, all talking about the value of light. I've gotten comments and messages that says, that's great, but I'm not necessarily engaging with a lighting designer. I'm doing a home renovation. How do I actually accomplish this? How do I actually make the lighting on my next renovation amazing? If you're planning a renovation, this is the video for you. So let's jump right into it. What are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about, first of all, why great lighting is so important. Then we're going to talk about how to go from average to amazing. We're going to talk about layers of light, right? So that's how you go from an average lighting to amazing lighting. We're going to talk about the players involved. Who do you need on your team to actually accomplish this beautiful lighting in a renovation? And then we're going to talk about how to work with your contractor, right? So unlike a lot of other DIY projects or other parts and pieces, you need a licensed electrician to do most of this work. You're going to need somebody on your team that knows how to install it. And we're going to talk about how to do that. We're going to talk about getting control of your lighting, literally getting control of it, the dimming that goes into your space. This is how your light's going to look great over and over and over again. And we'll get into that toward the end. Okay. So why is great lighting important? Great lighting is important because it makes every other design feature better. What do I mean by that? Unlike any other renovation that you may do in your home, any other design feature you may add, usually those features are independent of each other. Lighting is one of those few rare things that actually improves other parts of your home. And here's what I mean. On a basic level, it will make colors pop. I've known interior designers who work with color specialists, who are color specialists themselves and choose an amazing palette where the furniture ties into the walls, ties into the art accent colors, and then the lighting doesn't make those things pop and you don't actually see the colors the way they were meant to be displayed. So lighting will make your colors pop. Lighting will create visual interest. Maybe you do floral arrangements. Maybe you have an art collection. Maybe you just want to draw people to the sitting area in your new study. Whatever your goals might be, the use of light to create these visual interests is how you're going to pull people toward the spots in the rooms and in the spaces you want them to go to. Get light where you want it and avoid glare and distraction. So what do I mean by that? Okay. This is where the move from, contractor grade and big box store fixtures and up to spec grade lighting really makes a difference. Because when you make that transition, you go from fixtures that get enough light to the target, but don't do it in an elegant way. So the downlights cast glare. They make your eye float upward toward the ceiling when they don't want to. They cause unwanted light, right? So you also see this in decorative fixtures that are cheaply made with poor materials. They are harsh. They don't look great to your eye. Think about those bathroom mirrors you've ever gone to, like maybe in a diner or a lesser restaurant, and that light is right there in your face, and it's just super distracting. Spec grade higher end fixtures are going to pull your eye to the things that they need to go to, get you enough light on the target, but do so in a way that's not glary and it's not distracting. And lastly, great lighting tied to a good control system will make you healthier. How? It will help your sleep. So there's been plenty of studies that talk about the need to reduce our electric lighting at night, especially about 2 hours before bedtime. If that's a goal of yours is better sleep hygiene, better lighting will do it. And here's how. It's kind of subtle, but when you work with better lighting fixtures, you can create layers of light that are going to be soft and actually bring the overall light level down, get less light directly into your eye line, but still allow you to perform the tasks that you want to perform. Think about reading, or maybe it's applying, your bathroom routine at night. Getting less light in there into your eyes and actually still being able to perform those tasks is what you do when you have well-designed layers of light. Okay, that's great. So let's say you're on board with me here. Then the question becomes, what makes great lighting? So what I did here is I pulled an image from one of the architectural websites, and I found this really nice kitchen renovation that I like as a style. And I thought, let's see if we can talk about this as a way to discuss layers of light. And so what I did was I converted it to a sketch like this, and now you're going to see the first layer of light. This is the most common contractor response to layers of light and to lighting design. They say, well, you know, you need 6 hi-hats in here. Here are your downlights. There's nothing wrong with this. In fact, if I were designing a kitchen, it would absolutely have downlights. But downlights alone are going to cast light, just like they say, down. These are those recessed cans you see all over the place. And they're not going to necessarily cast beautiful light on anything. There's just a functional layer of ambient light here. So it's a good starting point, but it can't be the only point. The next is going to be task lighting. Okay, so getting light underneath each one of the shelving units so that you can see the objects underneath, see those pops of color, and if you can see that cast of glow on the countertop, your workspace is also well lit, so you can cook. You can actually do the thing you need to do. It gets you light at the task surface without the shadows of downlights. And then in this case, we're just doing 3 layers, and this third layer of light is the decorative pendant, right? In my preference, in a kitchen especially, is to do something that casts a glow in 360 degrees. And the reason for that is this is what's going to properly illuminate faces. This is what's going to make you look great. It's going to make your family and your friends look great when they come to visit. And it's also going to cast that warm, welcoming glow on all of the vertical surfaces in the kitchen. So 3 layers of light combine to make a great lighting statement. Downlighting, in this case it's downlighting, task lighting, and decorative lighting. Mix them together and what you get is a full scene of illumination where faces are lit, work surfaces are lit, and there's good ambient light for transit across these spaces. That's a very basic example of how you get to beautiful, great lighting in a home. Now, each one of these elements is going to be upgraded, right? We're going to talk about how we upgrade each of those in a second. So the most common question I get, or one of the most common questions I get about this is, will it cost more? And I'm not going to lie to you. Yes, it's going to cost more. Great lighting is an investment, and that investment is, in my opinion, worth it. Because as we said in the beginning, great lighting increases the value of every other part of your home renovation. It makes things better in your home. So there's 2 layers of this investment to me. There's the simple monetary financial investment. If you go for this kind of lighting, you're adding to the value of your home. So long term, that's a win. The other, maybe less tangible version of this is if you invest in this kind of lighting, what you're doing is giving yourself flexibility to create a beautiful space over time. And it's a space that you're going to enjoy more. If you've ever seen those videos or you're one of these people yourselves that's like, never turn on the big lights, that's because the big lights are poorly designed. And it's because they're not balanced with other layers of light. If you want to fully enjoy this home that you're renovating, that you're investing so much money in, this is a little bit more money, and it's going to maximize your enjoyment of every other feature of your space. So the short answer is yes, it's going to cost more. Okay, so you're willing to make the investment. You understand the basics of how you're going to create these layers of light. How are you going to execute this? How are you going to get this from an idea and a concept and a value to a real renovation? Well, you can't do it alone. You're going to need a team. And the way this team is going to be built out is it starts at the top. It starts with an architect and an interior designer or an interior designer who values light and that lighting discussion. Okay. So some renovations are led by architects. Some are led by interior designers. Sometimes there's both. I'm not going to, I don't know what your plans are, but whoever's leading this team needs to value lighting the way that I do and the way that you, hopefully by the end of this video, will. So what does that mean? It means that they need to be able to discuss light in a real way. We'll get to that in a second. You need a lighting supplier with experience with higher end lighting. So what that means is contractors are going to go to their usual suppliers. Oftentimes that's the big box stores. They're going to go grab the same downlights they've always grabbed. They're going to get them in their ceiling and they're going to move on. If you want something better, you have to work with a supplier that's willing to supply better. And we'll talk about that. Lighting designer, and I have a question mark there because the reality is in most markets and most of the time you're not going to be able to work with a lighting consultant. If you want to work with a lighting consultant, if that's something that you're interested in, always leave a comment or send me a message. I'm happy to work with you on how to find a lighting designer in your area that can help you. And you need a contractor who understands. So when contractors are bidding your project, they need to understand that higher end lighting is going to be part of that package, and they need to bid it accordingly. And we'll talk about that in a minute too. But that may mean that they're supplying the lighting. It may mean that you're buying the lighting as an owner supplied material. We'll talk about that as we go. Okay. Interior designers and architects, what to look for. First of all, experience with specification grade architectural lighting. Do they understand how to spec lighting, or do they rely on the contractor to do it? If they understand how to spec lighting on their own, that's great. You can start to talk about the details and the finer details of how you upgrade some of these fixtures. Experience layers of light. Can they have the layers of light conversation that we just had? Are they able to discuss ambient, accent, and decorative lighting? Do they understand the different functions in the space, and have they had any experience with how to supply these things? And are they willing to explain these details to the contractor? Too often, lighting details are left to verbal discussion and not actually realized details in drawings. Is your architect or interior designer willing to detail out the lighting that goes in the millwork, the lighting that goes in the toe kick, the lighting that goes in the ceiling? These are all resources that we can work on. Lastly, willing to explain. I just said that. Never mind. Moving on. Here's the one question that you can ask any of your collaborators, and this will give you a big, big boost into whether or not these are your folks. How will you create layers of light in this space? That's it. That is the number one question to ask, because if they can answer that question reasonably, intelligently, and quickly, then you know they at least think about this on a regular basis, and they're going to improve the lighting in your space. So that's the question to hold on to. Okay, let's talk about how to source and purchase the right lighting. Okay. The main thing to think about here is there's going to be two paths to supplying the correct light for your job. The first path is the contractor will buy it, which is typically how they bid these jobs. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you have the conversation up front about what you're selecting and how that process is going to go. The other path is that it's an owner supplied material, in which case you're working directly with the lighting supplier and the contractor is just working as an installer. There are pros and cons to both depending on the complexity of your situation. If it's an owner supplied material, you can usually get a slightly better price because you're not dealing with a contractor markup, but you are now responsible for 100% of what you've purchased. So if the color temperature is wrong, if the mounting clips are wrong, if the thing can't fit in the ceiling because we didn't measure it right, you bought it and now it's your problem to replace it. So it's a little more dicey. Ideally, what happens is you work with a supplier who's willing to work with your contractor, and then the contractor can finalize those final details. So how to source great lighting. The first step is do some research. When I say do some research, the first thing is who are the lighting suppliers and lighting reps in your area. Depending on where you live, there will be lighting showrooms, lighting distributors, maybe even some lighting representatives that are going to want to work with you. Showrooms are a great option because you can actually go to the showroom and see this light in person. For as great as cameras have gotten and YouTube and the internet is, there's nothing really that beats going and seeing fixtures in person. And so showrooms provide a great service in that regard. So getting out to a showroom is a big help. Sometimes you may not be near a showroom. You're going to need to work with a lighting distributor. This is a little bit more of a you specify it and get it out to them kind of situation. You get that spec in. It's a little bit more of email collaboration. Sometimes it needs some legwork from your interior designer. But find out who the suppliers are in your area. Finding a lighting showroom or distributor that will willing to take a meeting. So not every lighting distributor is going to want to work on a home renovation because typically they work on larger commercial projects. That's why these showrooms are so valuable. But make some phone calls and describe what you're doing. Reputable distributors will say, this is really not our thing. Go to so-and-so. And you'll find the right showroom. You'll find the right partner. Then you can discuss the plan with the contractor. So I'm working with, Acme showroom. Acme is willing to work with you guys to supply the lighting. Here's the scope and here's the plan. then the contractor can go directly back to that supplier and we can start to figure out a plan for how the purchase is going to work and work with pricing and make sure that you understand what the budget is. Or the contractor will say, I'm not comfortable buying this stuff. You're going to have to work with the showroom directly. It's up to you, and it's always better if the contractor takes some responsibility, especially because they're the ones that are going to mount and install it and wire it, which is possibly where your knowledge is going to drop off and tends to be a little bit more case by case. Ask for a submittal of what's being purchased. Okay, so what that means is you've settled on the fixtures. Okay, you want to go with this downlight, these decorative pendants, this under cabinet lighting, to use our kitchen example before. And you have gone to the showroom and you've decided, I want 2700 Kelvin. That's the color temperature I like. It makes the wood grain look the best. And I need this much brightness out of the fixtures. You work with the distributor to or the showroom guy to kind of work that out. Your interior designer helps. They should generate, before the fixtures are released, before they get to you, a document, usually called a submittal. In the commercial world, these are reviewed page by page. I'm not expecting that from a homeowner, but your interior designer or your architect should be able to go through that bill of materials with you and make sure you're getting 2700 Kelvin, you're getting the right amount of light, and you're getting the proper dimming protocol. Those things are usually the critical things in a home renovation, and your specifier should be able to help you go through that process, okay? Just ask if a submittal is being put together. Make sure it's being reviewed by everyone on the team before the lighting gets purchased. And then you got to get control over it. So we've chosen the lights that we like. We've upgraded this lighting to get to, we've upgraded our choices. We've met the budget. We've got it purchased. Contractor is going to install it. Awesome. Now the last big hurdle. How in the world are we going to control this stuff? So controls have gotten both simpler and more complicated over the last, call it 5 to 10 years. Simpler in the sense that you can now do things digitally with a home app. If you've ever installed like a smart lighting system, you know that you can walk into the room now and tell your Google Assistant or your Apple or Siri or Amazon Alexa to do whatever you'd like the lights to do. So simpler in that sense, without having to run dimming to each of these devices. More complicated in that when you go that digital route, you then have to do at the front end, make sure you're installing smart dimmers, make sure you're installing compatible dimming systems to do that smart home sort of situation. There are basically 4 options when it comes to this stuff. There's standard wall box dimming, which is the dimming that you've seen slide up and down. There's simple area dimming, which means that you're just renovating the kitchen, so you have a simple dimming system just for that room. It doesn't connect to the rest of the home. You have whole home systems that will control, that's a network system throughout the home, and it allows you to, let's say you're sitting in bed and you would like to hit one button to put the whole house in night mode. A whole home system will allow you to do that. And then, of course, there's Bluetooth wireless control via apps. So the top 3 that I just listed kind of run from standard to what I'll call standard to more complicated. And then commensurate with that is also the cost. So standard wall box dimming is the cheapest, but then you have individual sliders on your wall and you have to do it every time. Simple area dimming is the next ratchet up in terms of cost. It gives you a little more function, but is limited to that one space. Whole home systems are the most expensive option because you're wiring up the whole home, but it gives you the most flexibility. And then last is that the outlier here is that Bluetooth wireless control via apps thing. So it depends. I am very comfortable with these systems. I think that they are the way of the future. I can understand if you're not, though. If you are comfortable with them, systems like Kasambi can enable almost any dimmer or I shouldn't say it that way, any fixture or most dimming protocols to become Bluetooth enabled wireless. Once you've gotten them on the Kasambi network, you can then use your smartphone, your tablet, whatever, to control those devices, set scenes, and then you can set up button stations to recall those scenes. I can't say that contractors are super familiar with how to set this up yet. Kasambi is sort of an example of a system that sort of doesn't have a lot of tech support at this point. You're doing it kind of DIY. Whereas some company like Lutron is a little bit more service oriented. There's usually dealers involved that are going to do that setup for you. There's no right or wrong answer here. It really does depend on your budget and your level of functionality. I will say this. If you can think about future-proofing this to something app-based, that's probably a good idea at this phase, because I don't see smart technology going away. But it also depends on your level of comfort and what you want to have in your home. These are all just viable options. I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope it gave you some insight into how to create great lighting. If this was helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps the show grow. And leave a comment if there's specific things you want to talk about. How to spec down lights, recessed cans, how to do cove lighting, how to do task lighting. I would love to hear what your hot topics are so that I can make that the next video on the channel. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to talk to you on the next one.